I am Dasha Yildirim and I'm a Turkish Kazakh artist that lives in Vancouver. I am an artist in Beaumont Studios and I make porcelain ball jointed dolls. I actually didn't study ceramics, I studied illustration, but I did take all my open credits in ceramics. So I did get a lot of experience with the materials and the technicians there were really helpful. I feel like I got enough base knowledge to start building my own knowledge as well from there on. Actually, when I first had my portfolio, I wasn't really sure what major I wanted to do, so I had a mishmash of things. I had sculpture, I had animation work, I had ceramics, and I had a couple of figure drawings and illustration. That's a good question. I think because I come from Turkey, a lot of the subjects and jobs available there are very science or engineering or math based, and I just felt like I didn't enjoy any of those subjects, and because I didn't enjoy it, I didn't really perform well in them and I couldn't really concentrate on them. So since I was very small, I always made things out of clay or draw a lot, so I felt like pursuing art was only natural, and coming here to Canada allowed me to expand that, because there isn't many art schools in Turkey that allow me to explore a wide array of knowledge. You could say I'm a ceramicist, since I do work with ceramics, and you could say I'm an illustrator and a painter as well, because I do work in those mediums. But I like to describe myself as a doll maker. No matter what medium I work in, I generally always work on dolls and figures. If I made a painting or illustration, it's it's very similar to my porcelain dolls and have the same feeling. Same as my porcelain dolls. So I would like to describe myself as a doll maker rather than a ceramicist. So in middle school, I think, in Turkey, I had an after-school activity called puppet making and marionette making, and I had a teacher. His name was Paul, and he was very good at making marionettes, and he was a professional marionette maker, and he was teaching his craft to us just like kids, and it was a fun after school activity. So I actually first started making marionettes, but moving on from that, I found that I didn't really care about making marionettes for a stage performance. Rather, I just like the process of making a movable sculpture and something precious that encapsulates my soul and my love. Instead of an empty puppet for performance, I moved on to making dolls. And after going to Emily Carr and learning the techniques with porcelain, I found that porcelain is the medium that I like to use best for this. I think porcelain dolls can be made of wide array of things, but for ceramics, I think specifically porcelain is the best material because it has a high translucency and it's very hard to break compared to other clays. The high translucency allows me to layer pigments that have a skin-like effect. When it's totally matte, it doesn't look like skin. When it's translucent, it looks more natural. So that's why I prefer this material. To me, plastic dolls are also very interesting. They are within their own price range. It's there is a price range to a lot of things. When you buy clothes, for example, there's lower end brands and then there's higher end brands. This is just similar to that, as in they're still they're still dolls and they're still interesting to me, and I do like to collect the plastic ones as well. for inspiration, but like I want to create something that is highly skilled and something that can put my knowledge into practice. That's why I opted out for a porcelain and higher end work. I like ball jointed dolls in general. I like all of them pretty much, and they're generally made with resin, but I don't think that makes them any lower quality than mine. I just think it's a difference in material and difference in preference and handling, so they are quite expensive as well. I actually keep up with them, and I think they're very important to the doll community because they're the industrialized and most accessible. So I like Blythe, which is plastic. They're pretty cheap and accessible. I like Obitsu because you can change their heads and they're very accessible as well. I think the Disney Animators Collection line is very cute and very accessible as well. There's many dolls like that, like Monster High. People like to collect Monster Highs and customize it, and I totally respect that. And I think it's a very respectable hobby for someone who's going into doll making or interested in dolls. Oh, my favorite part is the finishing part, like where I get to make the eyes, do the makeup, sew a dress and do the wig. Because I feel like at first when I make a doll, it's kind of like a husk and it's like waiting to be born, but when I complete the doll, it's when it gets its personality and uniqueness, and where it starts to feel like a living thing, or like feels like it has a soul or personality. My inspiration comes from a lot of vintage illustrations, like Mabel Lucy Atwell, and a lot of like toys and Japanese toys such as QP. Generally a lot of vintage figures rather than modern, but I like to give a little bit of modern flair to them as well, inspired by the industrial dolls that we just talked about, like Mattel and Barbie. Yeah, so it's kind of like a fusion between those things. I generally check my competition and like people who make similar things online, and I check like, oh, how is the market value of my work right now, and I try to place it at the market value that it is currently in. I try not to overprice it or underprice it because it takes a lot of labor to make it. So yeah, generally just market value on eBay. I have a guide for this on my website as well, and I will leave a link for you guys, but first I start by sculpting a prototype, which is in air dry clay, and then I prime it with a waterproof primer. And then I make plaster molds of each separate joint and each separate part. After this, I will select the high quality porcelain. I use the Sun Dynasty porcelain. It has the most warm color with the highest translucency rate. So I will pour the molds until it becomes a thin shell. Once it's out of the mold, it will lose almost all of its details, and I have to go back in and resculpt everything. After this, I fire everything in the kiln twice, once for soft firing just to polish it, and one to temperature, so it's actually hardened and it's durable. After this, I will paint the face, and this takes 6 to 8 times firing. Each layer has to fire separately, and it has to have many layers for it to look realistic and smooth without any blotches. So I will fire 6 to 8 times more depending on the character. After that, I will suede the joints and string the doll together, and I will work on the eyes and the hair and the clothes. And the hair, I get either Angora goat hair or Suri alpaca hair from a farmer in Russia, and I will clean them and dye the fibers and make a wig. So they're made in this way, and with the eyes they're made with resin, and the clothes, all the fibers I use are natural or vintage. Yeah, so this is Petra. Anthony chose to exhibit Petra for Earthbound because it's like, this is a show between our like artists who know each other, and it's like Emily Carr graduates, and it's like, it shows a wide array of abilities and applications within the ceramic medium, and like, I am the only person who did dolls in our class, so Anthony thought it was a good idea to display Petra in the show.